Yo, 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 yo. What's good with it, man? It's the homie Mac. Music, art, culture, knowledge. Reporting live from the Dogon. Each one teach one. Peace and love. Real quick, this is another session of Mackin' with Mac. Book review series. As you all know, it's Black History Month, which is always a refreshing time in the year. I like seeing a lot of things I'm seeing on social media as far as black people trying to educate other black people about black achievement. And not even just other black people, but greater society. I am an Aquarius. I'm a February baby. So I was born during Black History Month, which I always thought was pretty dope. But yeah, the thumbs up, give me the likes. Thumbs up, give me the likes. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel 82 Kings. If you like the content I'm giving you, if you feel like I'm giving you a perspective that adds to your insight, adds to your intellectual growth and maturation, show me some love. Drop something in the comment section. Subscribe. Tell your mama, tell your granddaddy, tell your lover, tell your friend, cousin, auntie about 82 Kings, about Mac TV. But yeah, the book I will be reviewing today is Assata, an autobiography. Assata Shakur, as we know, she was a member of the Black Panther Party. She was a member of the Black Liberation Army. She got political asylum. She's currently in Cuba. And I used to wonder, one thing about the CIA, the FBI, if the government wants you, they gonna get you. They gonna find a way to get you. I remember it was someone had referenced her as a runaway slave that made it to freedom. I don't know. At first I took offense to that, but now I can kind of relate to it. I can not necessarily relate to it, but I get where they were going with that. Currently, I think she's actually, Assata Shakur is the only person to ever be on the FBI, she's the first woman, rather. She's the first woman to ever be on the FBI most wanted list as a terrorist. I think it's unjust though. If you look at the spectrum of a terrorist, it's someone that is willing to enact rational means. I mean, not rational, but radical means. Someone who's willing to enact radical means for a political agenda. So they're willing to kill, murder, destroy, blow up something to implement their own political means. Set up to pretty much subvert a political infrastructure and create their own through violence. I don't feel like she fits that bill at all. This book, but I'll get to all that later. This book, I think, is a great read. I think, matter of fact, I got this book for my sister. I got this book for a couple people that I thought needed it. The thing that I really like about this book, first of all, she was born in Jamaica, Queens, New York. Shout out to Queens, all my people in Queens. And the thing that's really dope is when you hear the name Assata Shakur, like, I believe her name actually translates to warlike, or she who brings forth war. It's something like, it's something centered around war. It's a feminine name. And when I think about her name and think about the things she's done, it's just like, salute. She's a warrior queen. Like, you just think revolutionary. You just think about somebody who just has so much strength and so much wisdom. And I think, justly so, those things come to mind in context of Assata. But what I really liked about this book is it humanized her in another way. Like, you just see her political maturation, how she went from living in Queens to going back and forth between Queens and North Carolina to see her other family, to stay with her family, her aunt, and her family members from the South. and it's just, you see how how her political awareness grew, and how she went from not necessarily being scared, but just unsure of herself. Like, I want to be a part of the movement, but how? And am I really cut for this? Like, you just see her emotions go through the whole gamut. You know, I love the writing style of this book. It reads. I would say this is a poem centered around love and revolution. Love for not only black people, but humanity in general. I mean, she speaks of, like, she humanizes a lot of groups. You know, she speaks of, just different struggles that people from different walks of life go through. From LGBTQ to Latino people. Like, she really humanizes the world almost. Like, we're all oppressed people to the greater extent within the capitalist infrastructure. She's definitely pro-socialism. And one of the things that I thought was interesting was how she was talking about the riot. I think she was either talking about the riots in Newark or the riots in Watts. And she was saying how, I don't understand why people want to, shame black people into, why were y'all rioting? Why were y'all tearing y'all stuff up? She was like, we don't own none of the shit, no way. We don't own, if anything, we were tearing down the things that are used to oppress us economically. And I thought that was an interesting perspective. But again, I like in this book how it shows her, being a little girl and her just matriculating, growing, I guess essentially feeding her intellectual curiosity, feeding her political awareness, and it just shows that she didn't start off as a giant, but seeing her mature, seeing her become of the liberation movement for black people, just seeing her, join the Black Panther Party, join the Black Liberation Army, it inspired me to dig within myself and pull out, any type of strength that I haven't tapped into yet, But yeah, like I said, this book, it reads like a poem centered around love and revolution. There's actually sections within this book where she writes where her poetry is inserted in this book. At first, this book kind of threw me off because sometimes I felt like, okay, we're dealing in the present, then we're dealing in the past. We're in the present, then we're in the past. And sometimes it jumped around, but after a while I adjusted to it. And I kind of like that style because the reading is definitely not mundane. It keeps you on your toes. Like, this isn't something that you kind of have a cursory glance at. You have to, like, really sit down and read this book. But I spoke of her poems, rather. Let me find it. This is one called To Mama. This is just an excerpt from it. We all have been infected with a sickness that can be traced back to the auction block. You must not feel guilty for what has been done to us. Only the strong go crazy. The weak just go along. But what I thought was cruelty, I understand was fear. That hands stronger than yours and wider than yours will strangle my young life into oblivion. Mama, I am proud of you. I look at you and see the strength of our people. I have seen you struggle in the dark, the world beating you on your back, dragging your catch back to our den, pulling your pots and pans out to cook it, a mop in one hand, a pencil in the other, marking up my homework with your love. The injured have no blame. Let it fall on those who injure. Leave the past behind where it belongs and come with me toward tomorrow. I love you, Mommy, because you are beautiful, and I am life that springs from you. Part tree, part weed, part flower, my roots run up. I have nourished well. Yeah, and just for context, like Assata didn't necessarily have the greatest relationship with her mother at first, so it was just really dope seeing, again, her growth and her understanding like a greater societal context, and how notice how she mentioned like our sickness can be traced back to the auction block. She talks about how slavery itself left an indelible mark on our brains and how we deal with each other. And there's so many backwards psychologies that we were taught through slavery that we handed down from generation to generation. And I just like the fact that she gave her mother grace, you know, and she understood her mother's oppression. I think the one of the main things I learned from this book is if you're not careful, you know, if you don't have a heart for justice, you can become oppressive to another, you know. And I'm realizing, like, you know, if you're not careful, to maintain a heart for justice and equality, you can become a monster. I think it's like Nietzsche said, one who fights monsters must be careful not to become one. So yeah, in this fight for liberation, revolutionary struggle, if we're not careful, we can become literally everything we fought against. Again, one of the things that I liked about this book was, and I can't stress this enough, was just seeing how she recalled her own growth. You know, how she went from really just trying to find her place in the world. At one point, she had left home early, and she was hustling, kind of like on some prostitution type stuff, but not necessarily actually sharing her body, but tricking a John. You know, like you get them to, you know, you pretty much setting them up and taking their money, making the money without sharing your body. It was just interesting just seeing her, how she went from an innocence to hustling to revolutionary. She talks, and one of the things about this book is the way it starts off. It starts off with her being in a hospital bed, you know, and she talks about how, and this is her being in a hospital bed is the consequence of what happened in the New Jersey Turnpike, where Warner Forrester, I believe, he was a trooper. He was a state trooper in New Jersey. He was murdered. Assata was shot. I think she was shot 3 times. And so it goes from that to her being in the hospital, on the hospital bed. And she talks about how she was chained to the bed. She was cuffed to the bed, rather. She talks about how the police were, like, basically torturing her, messing with her wounds, trying to get her to talk, trying to get her to, I guess, snitch on people. And they just gave her a hard time, you know? This book, it's so descriptive. The narrative is so descriptive. It feels like you're there, you know? Again, from her, the way it started off with her being in the hospital bed, and the way that the police essentially tortured her, you know, and then she talks about her trial, you know, and she said something really interesting. She said she felt like, you know, she could never get justice in America, you know, due to having an all-white jury, understanding the dynamics of white supremacy. But yeah, let me, I think she equated, ironically, I just turned to this. When it came to justice, another reason why she felt like she couldn't get it, because of the Fugitive Slave Act, she just thought about it, how the Fugitive Slave Act set a precedent for the legal system in America. The Fugitive Slave Act, which permitted Southern slave owners to reclaim their escaped slaves in northern states. What the law actually did was give any white man with a certificate of ownership the right to kidnap any free black man, woman, or child in the North and force them into slavery. So knowing that our justice system comes from that type of background, she felt like there's no way she could get justice in America. You know, on her account, she claims she's innocent, that she didn't actually kill the state trooper. I think under the Trump administration, they posted something saying she's on the FBI. They pretty much put her to the forefront of the FBI most wanted list again, and made a big fuss about it. Then I heard there was an interview with a New Jersey state trooper who was saying Assata better watch her back in Cuba. But I know Castro at one point was saying, you know, y'all gonna have to go through hell to come and get this woman. You know, so salute to Castro, RIP, I believe, RIP Castro. I believe he's dead. I'm not, but yeah, this book really engaging. You know, again, she was born Joanne Chesmard, changed her name to Assata Shakur. Let me see. Let me give you guys some of the quotes I got from this book. Only a fool let somebody else tell them who their enemy is, who his enemy is. Only a fool let somebody else tell him who his enemy is. I always thought that was deep. A lot of people are out here at war with people from different classes, at war with people from different backgrounds, and they're pretty much indoctrinated into that beef. You know, you got a lot of white people who live in Appalachia that are poor, and they vote against their own interests because the things that they feel like if they vote for is going to benefit black people. But in actuality, by periphery, it benefits them because a lot of them are poor. You know, voting Republican, really they just support wealthy white people who really just look down on them and look at them as white trash. But, you know, I think somebody said the poorest white man feels like he's better than the wealthiest black man. So I guess they're using the race first narrative. Then another thing, let me see, this is another quote from the book. Compressed ghettos threaten to explode. Poverty, fire, and brimstone boil over into a deadly stew. But the beautiful people refuse to let me read in peace. My girlfriend has insisted on fixing me up with Mr. Wonderful, who turns out to be an egomaniac decked out in monogram swimming trunks. I read beyond my initial point, which was just compressed ghettos threaten to explode. Poverty and fire and brimstone boil over into the deadly stew. But the thing I like about this book, she definitely addresses sexism. She addresses, you know, the unique struggle that black women have. And in some ways, she talks about how the Black Panther Party was oppressive to black women in some ways and didn't let them hold certain positions, which